Some of the most profound philosophies on life come from the most unexpected places. We tend to look to ancient thinkers or, modern gurus. But what if one of the most practical and solid life systems came not from a philosopher, but from a career technician? Let's dive into a life system that was born from 4 decades of just maintaining machines. Okay, so take a look at this. This is the work history of a man named Lin Kangxian, a technician from Singapore. You can see his whole career laid out, right? From semiconductors back in the late 80s, all the way to property management today. But what's the common thread here? It's all about technical maintenance and making sure systems work. So just think about that for a second. After 40 years of dealing with electrical systems, with testing equipment, with building infrastructure, what kind of insights about life would a person like that develop? Really, what can a machine teach you about how to live? Well, this is what came out of it. A really sophisticated, multi-layered system for life, almost like a blueprint. It has core principles, system layers, and even frameworks for daily execution. And that sets up the big question we're tackling here. How on earth did a career spent with wires and circuits lead to a detailed plan for a stable life? Now, what's really fascinating is that the story of this system doesn't begin with some grand vision. Nope. It starts with a simple constraint, a limitation from his youth that became the very first critical signal, the first input into his life's operating system. So back in 1970s Singapore, there just weren't enough spots in the English-speaking schools, which were the preferred option for many. This external factor, this simple lack of space, became what he now calls the first signal in his system. See, it wasn't a choice he made. It was a path that was sort of forced upon him. Let's just walk through how this happened. That lack of school spots, it lands him in a Chinese medium school. But here's the twist. Instead of being a disadvantage, it creates this incredibly powerful dual-track mind. He ends up learning about culture and people through Chinese while using English for the hard logic of science and math. A whole mental structure was built, not by careful design, but out of sheer necessity. Okay, so he's got this unique educational foundation. Where does that lead him? Well, that dual-track thinking fit perfectly with engineering. And for the next 40 years, his entire career would revolve around one central idea: maintenance, just keeping systems up and running. And you can see that consistency right here on this timeline. Decades spent just focusing on the long-term reliability of systems. Electrical grids, testing gear, building infrastructure. This was never about chasing short-term performance. It was always about preventing a long-term collapse. And that hands-on experience, it became the bedrock for his entire personal philosophy. And this quote, this is the light bulb moment. It perfectly captures his core insight. The goal isn't to hit some jackpot or achieve some amazing, spectacular success. No. The goal, learned from decades of keeping machines from breaking, is to make sure your own system doesn't break down. It's a total shift from chasing the highs to just managing the lows. So how did he actually formalize this idea? Well, he built a model for it. He calls it the Kangxian Systems Model, or CYSM for short. And it's basically a framework built on 5 interconnected subsystems that all work together to maintain stability in your life. All right, here it is, the whole shebang. At its heart, you've got 5 key elements. First, there are signals, which set your direction. Then there's time, which is like an amplifier. You have capital, which is your buffer. Health, which is the core infrastructure. And finally, stability, which is the whole point of the system. Let's break each one down. Okay, let's start with the first piece, signals. This is basically your direction system. You can think of these as cues, either from your environment or from inside yourself, that point toward a good long-term path. Just like that school system constraint we talked about, they're not always these grand plans you come up with. They're inputs you need to recognize and follow. And here's the key takeaway, the thing you really got to get about signals. The most important ones are often not things you choose, but things that happen to you. Your job then within the system is to get really good at spotting these signals and aligning yourself with them for the long haul. All right, component number 2 is time. In this model, time isn't just something that passes by, it's the great amplifier. It's like turning up the volume. It takes whatever direction you're headed in and just multiplies the outcome over decades. It's the engine of compounding, for better or for worse. And you can see how this plays out, right? If you're on the right track, time is your best friend. It compounds your advantages into something really strong and resilient.
But if you're on the wrong track with a poor foundation, time actively works against you, accumulating failures until things collapse. The whole goal of the system is to get on the right side of that equation. Next up, we have capital. This is the system's stabilizer. Now, it's absolutely critical to understand that we are not just talking about money here. In this model, capital is any resource that acts as a buffer against shocks and chaos, helping you survive the unexpected.
So what are we really talking about when we say capital? Yeah, of course, financial assets are part of it, but so are your skills, your knowledge, your experience. All of these things act like shock absorbers for your life. They reduce the system's volatility and seriously increase your chances of making it through tough times. Okay, now we get to the absolute bedrock of the entire system: health. In this model, health is defined as the infrastructure. It's not some goal in itself. It's the non-negotiable biological hardware that everything else runs on. If this hardware fails, all your software, your career, your skills, your money, it can't run, period. A machine can't run on faulty wiring, right? Well, a life system can't run on a failing body. The whole point of focusing on health here is to reduce the risk of a total system breakdown. It's about maintaining your capacity to actually do everything else for the long term. It's proactive maintenance for your body. So you have all these other parts: the signals, time, capital, and health, and they are all working in service of this final, most important component: stability. This is the failure control system. This is the ultimate objective, the direct lesson from a 40-year career in engineering. The logic of stability completely flips our common idea of success on its head. In this model, success isn't about maximizing your gains, it's about minimizing the kind of failures you can't come back from. You achieve this with engineering principles like risk control and diversification. Winning isn't about spectacular victories, it's about methodically avoiding catastrophic losses. And this is where it all comes together. This is the big idea, the core paradigm shift of the whole model. It suggests we should stop thinking about life as something to just be passively managed, where we're always reacting to whatever happens. Instead, we should see it as a system to be proactively engineered, designed from the ground up for resilience and a long life. And if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this quote. This is the wisdom of a technician, distilled into one sentence. A critical system failure in a factory doesn't just happen out of the blue. It's the result of all these tiny, unnoticed problems, little vibrations, small leaks, stresses, that just build up and accumulate over time. The same, he argues, is true for a life. So that kind of leaves us with a question to ask ourselves, doesn't it? If your life is a system, what are its small, accumulating stressors right now? What little signals are you getting from your environment? And which part of your system, your health, your capital, your overall direction, might be most in need of a little preventative maintenance?